All right, there's an old saying that says, not all in life is as it seems. Where am I? I'm standing in a room in a business district in Sandton, north of Johannesburg, with Mick Mann. I'm standing in front of a television set. There are a couple of cameras behind us. But there's a lot more to it than what I'm experiencing right now, and what you and I and our audience are going to experience in a short time. What are we doing?
So we are in physical space. We're in Sandton at Man-Made's offices, but what we have done is we've created the first ever ENCA virtual reality show. We're calling it VR Meets Reality. What we've done is we've taken pictures of yourself, myself, and somebody in Silicon Valley, Aaron Frank, who's the Singularity U chair on virtual reality.
Now, Aaron's this guy here. That's the avatar.
Yeah.
And we're going to meet him later in real time.
It's early in the morning in San Francisco, and he's joining us as he's waking up for his morning coffee.
All right, explain to me, what is virtual reality and why should I be bothered?
So virtual reality is an exponential technology that is on the growth curve like we've never seen before. And it's going to change almost everything about the way we work, play, train, are educated, how we actually interact in social environments is going to be changed, because what happens is you can put on a headset and go into a virtual environment that is a digital environment and actually have a social encounter or some type of training.
This all sounds very worthy and maybe even a little Orwellian to many people. And you say it's going to change the way in which we think. Give me a practical example.
If you think about the way we currently learn how to work with lab equipment, currently you have to train as a student for many years, and then only then do you get access to this very expensive equipment that you have to be an expert to use because it costs so much. With virtual reality, we can build that lab equipment in a VR space and then get you to play with it and have access to it at a much younger age with no risk. There's no risk of breaking the equipment because it's actually in a digital form.
How close are we then to this virtual reality utopia that you're talking about, or is it simply still the preserve of people who like to play games?
We are getting closer and closer every day. Facebook, who's driving a lot of this conversation, have just released the Oculus Quest, which has created leaps and bounds of new applications that we can create using VR. And we're going to see over the next 2 to 5 years it's becoming a very, very prominent feature in all our lives. So we're very close, actually.
So I've known you for a bit. We've met in the past. I think you're a reasonably nice guy. We know each other fairly well. Let's shake hands. That's a real handshake, am I right? Okay.
Yes.
When we do that later, that's not a real handshake. My question to you is, are we not taking human beings out of the equation entirely to the detriment of society more generally? Isn't that, shake my hand again, isn't that more important?
That is very important. However, when you've got all the costs associated with that handshake, it might cost you multiple thousands of dollars just to get that handshake. Whereas if we can go jump into a virtual space and be able to engage with each other in a very similar type of interaction, and once the VR becomes so good that we won't be able to tell the difference from being this real handshake to the VR handshake, the VR is going to become a lot more appealing. And at Singularity U South Africa, we believe that it's going to create abundance and create new types of business models, interactions that we can't even imagine yet.
All right, I'm going to put my notes down, okay? I'm going to shake your hand again, okay, because I still think that human touch is important.
Yes.
Now, bring your team in and walk me through what is going to happen step by step.
We're going to pick up these Oculus Quest, which is the new VR headset that's just been released, and we're going to put them on, put on the headphones, take our 2 hand controls, and we're going to join Aaron in the ENCA virtual set. And then we're going to have a conversation in virtual reality as if we're all in the same room.
Right. Just a couple of things. We had a little tryout before we started recording this. I'm standing in, what do you call this, like a cage or a zone or something?
Your guardian zone.
My guardian zone, okay? If, when I've got the glasses on, I step outside the guardian zone, what I'm seeing, but what the audience doesn't see, is this red cage, right?
Yes.
So I've got to stay within my guardian zone.
Exactly, because now these new Oculus Quests have cameras on the outside, so they've got inside-outside tracking. So it gives the Oculus the whereabouts about where you're standing. So it becomes aware to sense your physical location.
Okay, marshal your team. Let's get set up.
So let's put the headset on. We're going to put these on.
I can't wear my glasses, can I?
You can if you want. You can just readjust.
Let's be brave.
Let's be bold.
All right, so step by step, what are we doing?
You put on the headsets.
So that's the headset. Who is this, by the way?
This is Ronnie.
He's a real person, not an avatar.
Ronnie is head of VR and animation at Man-Made.
And how Ronnie's about 14, am I right? This is the age of people who are now doing this kind of thing.
He's a leader of the future.
Yes.
In this interaction, Ronnie is going to be the cameraman in the virtual reality, controlling his camera from the laptop, where the angles and the shots will take place.
So I'm now putting on the headset. So almost instantaneously now, I am seeing the set. I feel part of the set. It's as though I have walked onto the set of ENCA. I can see my guardrail here. I can see Aaron in the distance there. And Mick, I have literally no idea where you are.
I feel like I'm still in the Netherland.
Okay, so now Ronnie, what am I holding here? These are my hands that I'm...
Yeah, these are the
that I'm holding.
These are the Oculus Touch controllers. They work together with the headset, and the headset tracks these controllers, and you have full hand presence in VR, so you can interact with things.
All right.
And use your virtual hands just as you would your real hands.
Okay, don't go too quickly, Ronnie. I can see Aaron. There's a name above Aaron. I can see that. If I go beyond the cage, I can see you. If I get back into my Guardian cage, I can't. Ah, there you are. So just wave.
Yes, Aaron. How are you,
Okay.
Aaron?
Hey, Mick. Hey, Jeremy. Good to see you guys.
Okay, Aaron, so it's very good to meet you. Tell our audience, you are in San Francisco, in the state of California right now. It's early in the morning for you. How does it feel to be part of this first exercise in a virtual reality interview in South Africa? The words I'm looking for are very proud.
Yeah, it's great. I'm very proud. I mean, it's very nice to be invited to join you. As you mentioned, I am in my apartment in Russian Hill neighborhood of San Francisco. It's about, I think it's like 7:30 in the morning. Got up early to be a part of this with you guys. And it's, it feels a little bit like I'm actually standing in a room here with you guys in South Africa. But it's a great honor, and I'm very happy to be here.
So I'm seeing you less than a meter away from me. As I look through these glasses, you would be experiencing the hideous sight of my avatar looking at you.
Exactly, except I may not characterize it quite that way, but it looks good to me.
Okay, I just think you're being very kind. So, Mick, as I'm speaking to you, I'm seeing a camera that is virtually stalking Aaron right now. That's the camera bot, am I right?
Yes, so that is an actual physical human being. You need to have a camera to be able to get the different angles in VR. And as you see now, as we cut into the VR setting, you can see how the angles are being controlled by Ronnie of what's being filmed.
So, Mick, why aren't your lips moving when you're talking to me?
That's the next level of virtual reality. At the moment, we've gone and developed real-life avatars. The next layer is once we can actually get your lips to move and we can start tracking your eyes, so that we will be having your real emotions and expressions coming through your real-life avatar.
So, Aaron, back to you in San Francisco. We've heard a very elegant discourse from Mick about the practical application of virtual reality going forward. But in the United States of America, I am making the assumption that the technology perhaps is a little bit more advanced than a developing economy like South Africa. Why is this important? And going forward, where do you see the practical application? And Mick, stop grinning at me like that. You're just freaking
Can't stop smiling in VR.
It's a really interesting topic at the moment because virtual reality as a consumer technology has really only been around for a few years. And so everyone's really trying to figure out where is the really, killer breakthrough. Where we're seeing the most development in the United States and here in the West is a lot of work around helping people in a corporate environment do training and development. That's probably the most useful application at the moment. For example, companies like Walmart, who actually just last week announced that there are people in their company who are being not only trained in virtual reality, how to navigate a store, how to deal with shoplifters, how to stock the products on the shelves correctly, but now they are actually making sure that people are qualified for promotions by giving them tests inside a virtual environment where they can actually see someone perform in a somewhat, lifelike simulation. That's probably the area where we're really the most excited is helping people learn, train, and develop new skills by using the technology.
What, in your opinion, Aaron, are the risks in all of this? We hear about this brave new world, but we've also heard stories about the increasing isolation of human beings. The concern is that this kind of thing is perhaps not a healthy quotient for society. Do you buy into any of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a few things that give me pause around the technology. For the most part, I think it's an exciting platform. There's so much you can do with it. There's really an infinite number of kinds of ways that you can use it. I mean, this is a great example of the fact that Mick and his team were able to just build a virtual newsroom that you and I could just meet up and hang out. One of the things that I'm certainly trying to keep an eye on is there's so much about this platform that's untested, unproven. For example, there's not really good long-term studies that looks at the effects of having a screen so close to your face on your eyeballs and just sight and vision. There's a lot of short-term studies, and studies show that there's really not much risk for short-term exposure, a few hours. Much like any new form of media, there's really no long-term studies or understandings around how these technologies might affect us long-term. And just to build one point on that, I have a 5-year-old nephew and an 8-year-old niece, and my nephew, who's 5, I actually don't really let him use VR that often. And one of the reasons for that is it's not clear that young children can actually perceive the difference between a virtual environment and a real one. And so you have to be very careful with young children, especially, just to make sure you're not exposing them to something that, again, it's so immersive, a platform like this, that you want to be very, very mindful about the kinds of things that you expose them to.
You use the word immersive in this conversation. If there's an over-immersion, what's the concern? What's the danger?
A lot of people bring up this topic around, isolation, which you just mentioned before, and I think connecting it to this idea that immersion is one of the clear benefits of the technology. The idea that I can put on these glasses and actually feel the sort of the academic term is presence. This idea that my brain actually can't tell the difference, whether I'm in San Francisco or I'm here in a newsroom with you here in a virtual environment. As you say, I think we're a long way away from any notion of over immersion. I think the technological challenges to creating an environment that is truly indecipherable from the real world, I think we're quite a ways away from that. But again, already with, the age of the internet, we're already seeing in some instances people that become addicted or jump into these virtual environments and spend quite a significant amount of time. And, what are, the questions there are around, what are the social implications of having people spend so much time in an environment that is arguably, preferable in some cases where you can, really experience anything that you would prefer to experience. So, yeah, I think, just like with the internet today, there could become challenges with, isolation. But for the most part, I think we're quite a ways away from a world in which we're, unable to distinguish between this and the real world.
I mean, just to build on that, is that these experiences are very social. A lot of these kids that are getting addicted to these gaming platforms, in the gaming platform, you are socializing and you have friends from all around the world that you actually become quite emotionally connected to because of this social sharing in the virtual experience. The regulation is something that a lot of these platforms are actually building in so that they can guard against things like bullying or guys pretending to be a young player when they're somebody older. So I think the unregulation is a big concern, but these platforms it's on the top of their list, right, Aaron?
Absolutely. And actually, it's probably worth bringing up that this is not a new challenge that companies and social VR platforms are dealing with. You may be familiar, and if any of your viewers, I'm sure many of them might be familiar with a platform called Second Life. And for those that aren't familiar, Second Life was a major social virtual platform that launched about 15 years ago. The way it worked is you built an avatar for yourself, much like the ones that we're using here. You could explore these online virtual worlds. People were building, entire cities, nightclubs. It was a huge platform. Millions of people were signing up for this. And it's still actually quite a large platform today. They still have almost 1 million monthly active users. I think the number's closer to 800,000 or so. There's a huge online economy that exists there. People buying and selling virtual goods. I could sell you a pair of virtual sunglasses. The economy in Second Life today is still $500 million. So the economy there is larger than some countries even. And so if you think about the company that manages and runs Second Life, the company is called Linden Labs. They're really like a regulatory body. They are a government entity in a way, and they have to manage those relationships. And for the most part, the way that people use Second Life is for a range of really incredible applications. There are communities of patient groups, for example. One that comes to mind is a group of Parkinson's patients that will meet up in Second Life, things that they could never do in the real world. They'll go horseback riding, they'll have social events, go to dance parties. Yes, it's in a virtual environment that they're using a computer to do this, but these patients are connecting in these virtual environments to do things they couldn't otherwise do. And it's a pretty incredible thing. And so, yeah, I think things like this will become more, ubiquitous as these platforms become more accessible.
Aaron, I'm going to come back to you in just a moment, but and I want to talk to you a little bit, Mick, about building the avatars. But you are freaking me out a little bit now, because as we were talking about regulation, you appeared, both of you now, seem to be encroaching on my space, as if you were stalking me and about to attack me. And you're grinning at me like a serial killer. So move back, go back a little bit. Okay, sure. All right. Now both of you come close to me. I want to see how this works. That really, but you can't get inside my, what did you call it? The danger zone or whatever it was called.
Trying to give you some
okay.
love.
So now, if I want my avatar to touch your avatar's face, can I do that? So I'm going to try.
Touch me. So
Aaron,
we can have a kumbaya moment.
So could we all hug?
We can have a group hug, yeah.
Could we try a group hug? Except none of us have got arms. The avatars haven't. Okay, so all right. So I feel like I'm hugging.
Funny in the real world.
A TV screen. All right, both of you go away. You're starting to worry me now. Mick, very quickly, the development of the avatars themselves. I mean, I haven't seen my avatar yet. I caught a glimpse of it, and I looked very strange. I'm hoping it's flattering. Yours is pretty accurate. I mean, you look, apart from the fact that your eye or your lips aren't moving, how difficult was it to create that avatar?
So this has been a long-term development for us. We've been working in virtual reality for about 2 or 3 years now as Man-Made and Singularity South Africa. And what we're trying to do is really push the envelope. So to create these avatars, what we had to do is we had to take photos, 360-degree photos of everybody. And then what we do is we actually model your avatar in 3D, and we make like a skin out of your photos and wrap that around the avatar. And that's why it actually looks exactly like you, and you look very happy with me always. So, and I can see you nodding your head there. So we've created, it's almost lifelike. And the next step is going to be able to put your eyes in there and your emotions with your mouth. I know Facebook VR is doing a lot of research around this and how to actually create emotions with the face. So imagine when you've got a real life avatar and it's capturing your emotions. That's how good it's going to get. And it's taken us months to get there. We're going to continue on this path to keep evolving this.
And what's the interest like in South Africa beyond the scope of the tech world? Are people starting now to see the real benefits of something like this?
I mean, for a large or corporate organization, the benefits are immense. And we're getting requests every day for some different type of application, how to use this VR. I mean, think about executives at a large corporate organization. Instead of having to go and fly into a room together to have that meeting, they can now all put on the headset and join each other while they're still in bed, even if they needed to. And save all that huge cost of flights and the rush of having to get to that meeting for some urgent decision that needs to get made.
So did you say all the executives were going to get into bed together? Did I mishear you? Where have you gone?
I said, no, they could be having the meeting from their bed.
Oh, from their bed. Okay. But should the avatars choose to get into bed together, they could do that, but this is a family program, so we are going to move along. Aaron, final word to you as we bid farewell to you in San Francisco. What's the skill set that is needed?
That's probably the area that's most exciting, because virtual reality has been around as a technology for more than 2 decades, but it's now very much a consumer technology. So my own background, I don't have any programming skills. I don't have any coding ability. I'm, somewhat technologically savvy, but not super, advanced. And so it's already at a point where I'm able to, get into the device, pick up a headset, really be able to navigate the interface. The interfaces are really improving. And when it comes to building virtual environments, spaces like this, I look at, what Mick and his team have done, and I'm really impressed and overwhelmed by this. But there are already tools that are starting to develop that are really, make it available to anyone to be able to build a virtual environment. There's one that comes to mind that I've started to use and play with. It's called Sansar. That it's really just, you could think of it as like WordPress. You drag and drop virtual assets in a space. You can build, entire, buildings or worlds, whatever you want to do. But if someone would really like to get, really into this, of course, the technical skills that a young person would want to get into might be something like becoming a Unity developer or an Unreal developer. These are the game engines that are used to build most of these virtual worlds. So those, of course, will be skill sets that will be incredibly relevant going forward to build these kinds of virtual spaces.
Aaron, give my love to San Francisco, one of my favorite cities in the world. Mick, I'll put the same question to you in conclusion. There's your hand. Where have you got it?
You're trying to shake hands here, the virtual handshake.
There we go. It's a virtual handshake. Because we should do it with our right hands, though. I was going to ask you a critical question about skills. Are we teaching this stuff in South Africa? Is there growing interest here?
So there's a lot of talk around teaching the youth around into VR, and we are working with some government organizations on how do we bring this into the curriculums, because if you want to train the leaders of tomorrow, they're going to be working in virtual spaces, that is for sure. So they need to be learning how to play and develop and create in the virtual space, as well as learn the technical skills behind the actual platforms. If you know animation, you can be developing a lot of the animation content that goes into the VR platform is a good skill to know. And as South Africa, as Singularity Youth South Africa, this is one of our biggest missions. We are trying to future-proof Africa by creating this global community of change makers that can implement these technologies to solve some of the biggest grand challenges we have, like education. This could create a new wave of education if we can get these headsets into the greater masses of South Africa.
So just one final time, just so I've got this clear in my own head. This is the first virtual reality television interview in South Africa.
Absolutely. That you got it spot on.
And I have enjoyed every single moment of it. Mick, thank you very much indeed. Aaron in San Francisco, again, I bid you farewell. Now, as we finish the interview, cheers, we're going to, I was going to say disrobe, but that would be inappropriate.
We can take, before we do that, Jeremy, before we do that, let's take a selfie together. Let's all take a selfie. You got it? Do you want us to move it for you? Can you see it? Are we in your way? And then, Jeremy, if you actually try and move around, you'll see you get quite dizzy.
Yes, I've noticed.
Because your body is keeping still and your avatar's flying around there.
Okay. So we've taken the selfie.
Did you get a shot of the selfie? Ronnie?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. We're done.
So now we can take the glasses off.
Yeah. Aaron, thanks so much, eh?
Awesome.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah,
have a great day. Ciao.
So I'd like to know how long were we in virtual reality for, roughly? So we were in virtual reality for a half an hour.
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
That felt like 2 minutes, eh?
It's unbelievable. Ronnie, thank you very much indeed. Having come out of virtual reality, and I think we spent, they're telling us 30 minutes inside this virtual reality ENCA studio, I can tell you that I have seen a glimpse of what I think is a brave and exciting new future. I absolutely understand the practical application. I'm feeling a little disoriented as I leave because all of a sudden things are much smaller. So you literally step out into something a whole lot smaller.
It's actually quite weird.
It's very, very weird. But thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, thanks so
and
much.
that's a real handshake.
That's a real handshake.
Okay.
And you're going to see a lot more about this at the summit this year.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.